Okay, folks, this is it. We've arrived. Here we are, episode 100 of Learn How to See Better. It's the only podcast out there that'll actually improve your vision the longer you listen. This is your host, Drew Davis, and for today, I want to do something a little bit special for you. I've been kind of deliberately trying to determine what sort of delectable, delicious, determined and decisive and definite nuggets of knowledge I was going to bring to you for this monumental milestone for me. And I know a lot of these first 100 episodes, or these first 99 so far, have been really focused on looking to share some of the best things that I've learned that have impacted my life, my views upon life, and the life I'm currently living, and how I think some of those lifelong lessons were really only learned at happenstance points. They could be learned at any point in life, and for many of us, the way we find them is just by stumbling across them. And I kind of look at this podcast as being a sort of a treasure trove of something that once discovered can unlock a whole lot of the hidden pieces of wisdom and insight that I've accumulated that have really benefited me. And I don't think those should be locked away to the masses, but you've got to seek to find, right? And so for those that have sought and found this podcast, hopefully you've been gratefully rewarded many times over than the value of the time that you've spent or invested, because as I'm sure you know, there is a value in the time that you invest. It's just how we choose to spend it or invest it that's the most important. It makes the biggest factor on the outcome of our lives. But for today, sector rotations for energy allocations. Yeah, I had to get creative with something's fancy name for a title. Good hook, right? Makes you kind of curious, want to listen and learn more. Well, when I'm thinking about sector rotations for energy allocations, I'm just thinking about the reasons for the seasons and the changing in the seasons and the changing in the reasons for the things that we do and the way that we run our lives and the way that we want to continue to rule our lives, or at least thinking about a lot of the control that we have over our lives and our lifestyles, and how that really guides us and really kind of controls us, or in some cases confines us to a certain life that we hopefully are dreaming of, or have been dreaming of, or in the process of dreaming up. But when you think about your life as a whole, right? There's all these different I guess I'd call them categories in my mind. I call them categories. There's all these different categories, and in these categories exists kind of like a level that you've been performing at, or the level of investment or involvement. Let's say, for example, the level of investment or involvement you've had in, let's say, reading books, in the last 90 days, let's just say, right? That might be high, it might be low. Let's take something simple like walking around the block once a day or a couple of times a week, right? Let's taking a moment to meditate or reflect on your life, or be in touch with spiritual elements of your life. What about things associated with your physical health? What about things related to your mental health? What about things related to the relationships you have with people that matter to you, and maintaining those relationships, right? What about the relationship that you have with yourself overall, the things that you say to yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you view yourself? And in every area of life that really matters, we're kind of operating at a certain number or scale. And I don't mean to make this sound like everybody's getting graded, right? But what you'll notice is when we have goals and aspirations in life, they tend to live in one of a few areas of our life, right? You think about, last episode I was talking about like the holidays, right? And some people are already get checked out like as soon as Halloween hits or as soon as Thanksgiving hits and Black Friday, like everybody's in Christmas mode and ready for the new year. And, two common goals or let's just say New Year's resolutions, right? Call them for what they are. Most commonly, hey, what do you look forward to in the New Year's? And what's like a common conversational answer, right? What's a common conversational answer? People want to make more money. People want to lose weight or get in shape or something like that, right? Like a couple of simple ones. And granted, that's not a label for everybody, but it's a common one. If you've heard that and asked that question, people want to get fit, financially or physically, right? Let's just put them in a category of two positive words. People want to get fit, and it's just the category. And I think there's the thought and the desire that lives there, but if it's without a change in where your actual energy goes, you have to rotate the sector, right? So if you want to be, let's say if you want to be financially fit, but you're every weekend you're shopping at the mall buying it all, let's just say, right? Or some people might have, champagne taste with beer money or whatever the case is, right? There's spenders and savers. There's all kind of different money habits that people have, and that's a totally separate thing. But let's just say if you were trying to get, financially fit, but you weren't doing anything to look at that piece of it and put energy into that area, right? It might be naive to think that it's just going to happen by itself. And I heard a good quote once that said, your health and your finances are a lot alike in that they don't take care of themselves, right? So flip it over to your health. So if you're saying I have a goal around wanting to get fit, what that means is, okay, well, that's a good goal as long as there is the energy that rotates from other sectors. You either siphon energy from other sectors of your life, or you invest more energy in the current sector if you've got a little bit of a dribble in that category, right? Because it's the same 24 hours everybody gets to work with. We just got to rotate where we allocate our energy, right? Where we spend our time, where we're focusing. If you're trying to go run the Boston Marathon, you probably can't be partying every weekend and going crazy and having a blast from the standpoint of, if you're over consuming and wrecking your body when you're trying to become an elite physical performance machine. There's a conflict of interest there, right? If you said I want to go, if you're living the party lifestyle and just made that goal, you'd be naive to think that there wouldn't be an energy rotation. Like you got to rotate the sector where your energy's placed and focused. And that's kind of one of the key things I think that we might underestimate is, all right, if you're trying to get physically fit, you have to go to the gym more. But it's not just going to the gym more. Like that's the act of it. That's the art of like what you're doing. That's moving the bricks. Some of it really, I think all of it really begins in the mind and where we decide we are and what things are changing with regards to our thoughts. And recognizing that if we're vibrating with the energy that's keeping us in a particular sector that where we don't want to be, then okay, we're gonna have to offset that frequency. We're gotta mix it up. You gotta bring in some new input, some better input, some more supportive input of some sort that's going to be more in alignment with the destination. And that's where it's really rotating the energy, not just physically, but thinking about the things that you are trying to address or work on or fix or clean up or take out, right? It's either it's really just adding more energy in other places, and the rest will take care of itself. And so I think that as we look at the next chapter of all of our lives, or next chapter and wherever our journeys are taking us, much of it is kind of defined by, and the timing and the way things shape up and develop is the amount of energy we're putting into different sectors of our lives, right? And so you can't necessarily chastise yourself, and you also have to understand that it's as though you're operating with an amount of energy that you got only so much time in a day. So you need to put it in places that are going to make the most impact. So, it comes down to the things you do, the things even at a mental layer that you're thinking about that can play a very large role in you kind of getting there. And so I wanted to share some of that because I think that's an important thing for all of us as we go through the changing seasons. You might recognize a change in your behaviors, right? And it can be as simple as like, all right, wherever I live right now, if it's January in the morning, I'm scraping snow off the windshield. But if you live somewhere totally different, you don't have that in the winter, but in the summer, it's like, okay, every time it's July, I got to start the car up and let the air run for a couple minutes to get cool before you go anywhere because it's just hot, right? So you're going to be changing the way you do things just based on the seasons, based on the natural cycles of things. But with what you got to work with, you want to have it be defined. You want to have it be intentional because that's what's really going to empower you to start to make moves in different directions, right? So, case in point, I was thinking recently how I have not been as active in the gym, let's say in the last 30 days as I was maybe the 30-day window prior to that. And you say, okay, what's up with that? And you start to break down, look at the different things going on and what was happening and what contributes and what are reasons and excuses and everything else in between, right? But it's not as though, any of that time was spent really wasted. That time was diverted to other important things that in some cases might have came at the expense of energy typically reserved for a certain activity. The mindset and the focus, shifts and changes. And so when you understand that element of nature and the cycle of things and the cycle of life, you don't get so wrapped up in the way that life and how it happens and how we make it happen and what our experiences are and how experiences can be changed and how things can twist and turn and take a left, but you can still make them go right, and be right and have the positive outcomes that we all seek. It's just an amazing concoction of amazingness that all comes together. And a lot of what I'm really trying to share is the focus of being able to control that shift in energy. When we can reinvest our energy that might be in one category, if we can borrow or steal from one category in our own world of focus and energy for just long enough to be able to really have the impact power to move something in a more substantial way. I think if we can give nature a little bit of time to let the compound effect of that focus take root and play a role in having that forward momentum and giving ourselves permission to say, okay, well, you know what, if I don't focus on that thing over there for a little while, is that so bad? Right? Am I losing, or am I losing out forever, or is it something that might be there later? Because if I can just get enough of the excess out of my way to get enough of my energy focused on, maybe some of the, most important things right in front of you in your world, that's going to be a key difference maker in how you're able to go through certain experiences, good and challenging, and be present in it all. But it is something that we have to constantly monitor and stay in touch with, because keeping that right frequency and holding steady is one of the secret components, and not getting too lost or too caught up or too high or too low, trying to keep that focus in the middle and letting some of the emotions come and go, read them, understand them, being able to filter them, be able to let them show you your fears, and be able to let them tell you, and let them make the noise, but be able to push past and push through and break through. So there you have it. some great things coming for everybody looking ahead, and I hope you enjoyed that right there, just as far as some input on how we could start to change the outcome by changing the amplitude of energy we put forth in the areas of our life that we want to see the most focus in. And sometimes for the different seasons, you might have different reasons, right? It's the holiday season, right? It is a great time to be thankful. It is a great time to show the people that you care about how much they mean to you and how much you love them, and how much it makes sense to make the time to display that, to show that, because you never want that to go unnoticed. It's important to keep the love tanks full. That's one of the best gifts that you can give this holiday season, is the gift of a full love tank. And if you don't know what that is, you need to read about it and ask about it. 5 love languages, that is your hint. And until next time, thanks again everyone for tuning in to the 100th episode of Learn How to See Better. This is your host, Drew Davis, signing off for today, and can't wait to have you tune in for the next 100. Thanks.